Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Petition will vindicate Guyana's coalition position of fraudulent election, says Joseph Harmon. This story takes the lead in our 969th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 22nd October 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. In expressing his satisfaction with the case management hearing of the two election petitions filed by the coalition, leader of the opposition Joseph Harmon has stated that he also looks forward to the trial and hearing of the petitions as swiftly as possible, which will vindicate the party's position that massive fraud was perpetrated at the 2020 general and regional elections. HGP's Wendell Badri reports.
Leader of the opposition, Joseph Harmon, has registered his satisfaction at the upcoming case management hearing of the two election petitions filed by the opposition coalition, which has been scheduled for Thursday, before the Honorable Chief Justice, Madam Roxanne George. Harmon on Monday at a virtual press conference said that he looks forward to a speedy conclusion of the case management hearing and further an early deliberation of the two petitions, which he says will vindicate the coalition party's position that the PPP regime was elected to government based on fraud.
We take this opportunity to restate our confidence in elections petitions which are before the court, and we believe it will vindicate our consistent claim that the PPP regime was placed in government on the basis of fraud.
Harmon posited that the petitioners have asked the court to rule on a number of things, chief among them being that the election process was so flawed that the results that have been declared cannot represent accurately the will of the electorate.
That the whole of the election process was so flawed that the results that have been declared therefrom cannot be credibly declared to represent accurately the will of the electorate.
Harmon highlighted that the petitions also asked the court to rule that the Guyana Election Commission failed to discharge its constitutional functions, exercise general direction and supervision over the registration of electors and the administrative conduct of all the election of members of the National Assembly, and that a substantial number of the votes cast at the said elections cannot be legally validated and are without credibility.
That the magnitude of the irregularities, anomalies, and our systematic fraud which substantially affected the results of the said election was disproportionately advantageous to the People's Progressive Party's list of candidates than any other list of candidates.
On Friday last, former President David Granger had also expressed confidence in the petitions filed during an interview on social media, while attorney-at-law Mayor Robertson, who filed the second petition on behalf of his client, posited that the petitions hold merit and he strongly believes that they will carry and allow for the issues to be adjudicated favorably on behalf of the coalition party. Opposition Member of Parliament Roysdale Ford, during a press briefing last week, had also thrown his support behind the petitions, stating that they are meritorious and will allow for a favorable outcome on behalf of the coalition party. Reporting for the HGP Nightly News, Wendell Badri.
The Royal St. Lucia Police Force is increasing its operational tempo in response to a recent uptick in gun-related homicides. The Commissioner of Police, Severin Marchery, says no resources will be spared in the fight against unscrupulous criminals. Solage Alfred of HTS News Force reports.
I first take the opportunity to extend sympathies to all who've lost their loved ones. It is rather sad and unfortunate that we've lost so many lives through violence. One death is too many. Fallis, 41.
In just 1 week, 3 men were injured in a hail of gunfire. One man, Stevie Zoomboy Sharma, subsequently executed, and days later, Ali Smallboy Jordan gunned down. all in the vicinity of Leslie Land. The upshot in gun violence prompted a wide-ranging media briefing by the top brass of the RSLPF on Tuesday. Commissioner of Police Severin Mosheri says the stakes are at an all-time high as law enforcement strategizes on arresting the spate of violent crime.
We will not surrender. We will not retreat. We will take the fight to those rogues and would-be criminals, using every bit of resources available to us. We have talked the talk. It is now time to walk the walk. It has gone to a point where even police officers are being threatened. There is no guarantee that in executing the new plans in place to reduce such violent crimes, that there may not be collateral damage.
Investigations continue into the Leslie Land homicides that, according to ASP Crime Management George Nicholas, have no immediate connection.
We have not been able to confirm that there is a link between the two, but however, we are not ruling out the possibility of there being a link.
Fear has gripped the small community of Leslie Land and environs. Deputy Commissioner of Police Milton Daisy says police presence has been beefed up to keep residents safe during the violent flare-up.
What we have done as a force, we have intensified our patrol there. We are going there at odd times. We are going there by night, by day. We have a presence, SSU, in and around the area. Now, crime, there's opportunity. And once there's the opportunity to commit crime, persons will commit crime. We are looking out for the criminals are looking out for us. So, and as I've said before, we cannot have sufficient police officers to place in every community.
Law enforcement was not at liberty to divulge sources, methods, tactics, procedures, and strategies in order to maintain operational security. However, public assistance is being sought by Commissioner Mosheri.
I must say it is the responsibility of the police, to ensure the safety of every community and not just Leslie Land. What we also want is for members of the public to cooperate with the police in providing information that would lead to the arrest or to be able to detect some of those crimes. In some instances, we are faced with difficulties when we go out there to do our investigations.
Anyone with information regarding the recent homicides can call 45-CRIME or 452-7463. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Prime Minister Alan Chastany has declared that he never stated that St. Lucia was broke during the primetime TV panel update on the COVID-19 response last week. Colby DeVoe of HTS News Force has the details.
Prime Minister Alan Chastany has denied claiming that the island is broke. The government leader phoned into Newspin on Real FM on Thursday, October 15, 2020, on the eve of a critical cabinet meeting on the government response to a rise in COVID-19 cases last week. Chastany, during the interview, hinted that the controversy was politically motivated.
You know, it's very sad that on one hand, the opposition says that you don't play politics with health and they're not going to play politics with COVID. But persons do. And this idea that we've gone out and said the country was broke. I never said the country is broke. I said if in fact that we have to shut this country down, it is going to put significant amount of stress on our revenues. And as a therefore, it's going to be very difficult. We're going to have to make some tough decisions. We don't have the cash on hand to go and reshut the country down, restart a significant income stabilization program, feeding programs.
So what do you think of the
now on a more sporadic basis?
The Prime Minister's initial remarks, which were made on Sunday, October 11, 2020, garnered regional and international media attention, with some government leaders citing Chastany's comments in public policy and political announcements. Leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pear, also referenced the statement during a press conference last week, where he sought answers on the state of the nation's fiscal position. Now, some commentators have accused the mainstream press from far and wide of deliberately taking the Prime Minister out of context, arguing the remarks were about the COVID-19 income support programs. So what did the Prime Minister actually say?
What's at stake? It's not only the health of our nation, but is also the economics of our nation. It's no secret. The government has exhausted all of the efforts, all of the resources with the NIC and donor agencies to provide a social stabilization program for the public and for those persons who've lost their jobs. We have no more money.
The, quote, broke versus, quote, no money commentary has spawned a heated debate in the public square about passing language, semantics, and splitting hairs. This is not the first time the Prime Minister's rhetoric, by his account, has been misconstrued by the media, including regional audiences. Pro-UWP government supporters have accused critics and detractors of deliberately misrepresenting the Prime Minister. However, some pundits argue that given the far-reaching implications of statecraft, the language used by the political directorate must be precise to ensure there is no ambiguity and public misconception.
We have no more money.
Colby DeVoe, HTS News Force.
The president of Trinidad and Tobago's Public Services Association tells WASA workers do not believe the Public Utilities Minister, as job cuts are underway at the authority. However, Watson Duke says the government will have a fight on its hands if it decides to sever staff at the utility. More in this CNC3 news item.
The president of the Public Services Association, Watson Duke, is advising WASA employees to take no comfort in assurances from the Public Utilities Minister, Marvin Gonzalez, who says that there are no plans to reduce staff at the authority. The assurance came despite a $600 million reduction in the authority's budgetary allocation. Duke says it simply is not true.
There are plans to cut staff at WASA.
Duke believes government will take a decision to reduce staff, but he says there are other significant factors which are contributing to the inefficiencies at WASA.
Manpower, machines, material, methods, and management. We're going to look at our weaknesses in those areas. And we're going to look at the root cause and consequences of not treating with those weaknesses. Then we can look at what should happen. And then we are going to manage the process together. That is what should happen. Core determination and core management. That's the only way we can solve the problem of WASA.
The PSA president says any attempt to send workers home will not be taken lightly.
We are not willing to just close up shop and call it a day.
WASA currently employs almost 5,000 people. During the Standing Finance Committee meeting on Monday, Gonzalez said an interministerial committee was working on a report to submit to the Prime Minister, which will look at improving WASA's efficiency. Janelle Bernard, CNC3 News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.